Ta-da. Matnum March 2025. Let's start for the computational photography review of last month. But first, the word hunt. So every month's photocollective.net website, you can abbreviate to PCLTV for the URL if you want to type it faster. Gets out 3 words, keywords, for you to go hunt photography in the wild, alone or with friends, and post them with hashtags online if you want to see what others have done. So this month is wife, production, and charge. And yeah, don't hesitate to post them, such as we can see what you did with hashtag PCLTV or photocollective.net and the hashtags of the keywords and the date if you want really to be complete. Okay, in French it was épouse, production, and charge if you're interested in charge. But yeah, let's start with the first pictures. So that's what came out of my iPhone 16 Pro. It's a picture of Geneva, of the Rad of Geneva. And yeah, that's with Vika, but I wasn't able to finish any virtual film this month. I had quite a lot of things to do. I did a lot of film too. But here's the photo coming out with a very wide format. So this film, we'll see it probably in another month with its QR code. But I thought this was an interesting photo per se. I really like that sunset. Let's go to Camare. This month, it's mainly Camare for the QR codes. So here in random mode. A random mode I usually use to find the good QR codes that I will, once I really like one, put into Vika and use it as a virtual film, so do a series with it. I kind of like the 3 of those, taken on the left from a bus and the 2 others, center and right, from a train. The one on the left, that's Reykjavík in Iceland, with the snow still present sometimes in March. Or in the middle, that's Zurich near the Hauptbahnhof, the main train station. So it was an interesting view. Or the Lavaux region of Lac Léman, which some call Lake Geneva, but Geneva's at the far west end. And that's the Lavaux region where they have wine making as one of the main activities, but it's also a beautiful place. And the Alps on the other side of the lake. I really like those 3 treatments. And I think it's often when you have a window, having an extra treatment will kind of hide reflections, which you can actually see, and will give some character to the photographs you take. 3 other pictures. On the left, it's again the Rad of Geneva with the lighthouse at the end of the pontoon of the Bain des Paquis, of the Paquis Bass. Really a great place to go. Same sunset as before. Or simply here you have the leaves starting to bloom. I don't know if you say that leaf bloom, but on the trees, that's springtime coming up. But I thought this it almost looks like stars. If you didn't know it was a tree, maybe you wouldn't have guessed it. Or on the right, that's a picture we're going to see a little bit more after the QR codes. That's a pigeon on front of a wall with the sun. And I thought the treatment in saturator, which is geo, which makes those watershed shapes, was pretty good here. Made a pretty good, the result's pretty good. Here are the QR codes for the 6 previous images with one, if you want to use them with your apps, compatible apps. But going back to this picture I was saying, so here I have this other treatment with behind we have the original format of the photo, and another treatment on the right. I think it was really an interesting picture. I liked the contrast, and I usually, when I really like the scene, for whatever reason, I'm not saying the photo is good, I just felt I reacted at the time. I thought, oh, this is a cool scene. I will put it through the experimental editor of Camare, and go for different treatments. So here's 3 more treatments. And between the very digital artifacts on the left, the analog look, very contrasty black and white in the center, and this sort of distorted, kind of bumped out center picture with a dual kind of a ghost image on the right, you have really different results. And yeah, definitely not the same work and the same expression. Here I'm going for the original pictures that comes out of the sensor. Again, with Camare, the Rad de Genève was one of those historical boats with wheels on the side. This one I think is from the early 20th century, but some of them are from the late 19th century. Typical boat for this lake in Geneva. They're beautiful, highly recommended if you go there to take one. This one is kind of stuck. It's a bateau that's named Genève. And there's a lot of parties and concerts on it and lots of things going on. But here's a treatment with the Booty insaturator in honor of the Booty machine protocol art experiment from 2007, where this filter was made. This is a simulation of the original filtering of the pictures taken in the pre-smartphone era. I thought it was interesting. I thought the low resolution. The only thing that's kind of new is the film relator that adds this sort of sensorial grain above everything. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting photo, and it's kind of interesting to have this much loss of information depending on what you're taking photos of. Here are the 6 latest QR codes if you want to use them. And 3 more pictures, random pictures in random mode with Camare. Even blurry pictures, not in focus pictures like on the left, when you have an insaturator like HDR, which really increases the lights of certain parts of the images when they're dark. Added to the Katie might CCD, for example, here with lots of CCD sensor artifacts. I thought it was interesting. Or a more kind of traditional look for this just scene of a traffic cone inside a tree, which is just at the level of the asphalt. I thought it was not an interesting photo, but I thought it was funny. And on the right, that's the typical mouette genevoise, the small boats that are public transportation in the bay, in the Rad de Genève, those yellow boats, which you can take to go from one side to the other. Really cool boats. Staying at the same place, actually, here's a landscape photo of the bridge, the Mont Blanc Bridge, and that crosses the Rad de Genève, and the Rousseau Island on the right. This treatment I thought was interesting. Lots of digital artifact. You have this sort of mooring due to the pattern of treatment. But yeah, I always thought actually just for the scene that this island where Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the philosopher and writer, had a sculpture. There's a statue of him looking towards the bridge. But when the island and the sculpture was done, and when they named the island for him, because he spent part of his life in and near Geneva, when they built this bridge just on front, it just broke all the poetry of being at the front end of this island and looking on the open lake, which was the case before the bridge. Now he looks on the traffic since the 1950s, I guess. Another treatment of the same scene. The first one was with RDR. This one is, with ribbon. This one is DNAZ with sort of reversal of the lights of the luminosity of the sky, which I always find interesting. I thought, it gave it for a really different rendering overall. And here we're completely changing place. We're going in the state of Vaud, still West Switzerland, French speaking. And I thought it was an interesting scene, very soft, very poetic. There's some kind of glow in the high contrast zones. The sky was beautiful, and this tractor at that time of the year. We're going to see different versions of it, but here first the QR codes of the 6 latest pictures. Going back to this picture, here the treatment is not as marked, and I think gives you a better idea of the details of the picture, of the composition, this green and red tractor, which I found interesting. Nothing out of the ordinary for that region. They're starting to work really more intensively. And depending on the treatment, like here where you have the deformation linked to the Hirate insaturator, and the loss of color and detail on the borders, I thought it was interesting. But again, so many treatments here with Smoop, you will get some really interesting distortion of the colors, or this darked treatment, which makes everything very dark and kind of sort of cyan or magenta, I thought was interesting. Or this really more digital look with regards that adds this sort of pattern above the image and according to the image. Yeah, very interesting treatments in my opinion, but again, I think I prefer this one, the darked, the softness, the classicism of it, and the slight color balance, making it really analog-like. And here are the QR codes. Continuing on our adventure here, that's also in the Vaud region, Vaud state, near La Sarraz. It's a small town, actually, in this French part of Switzerland. Two different treatment of those big grain silos. The color one, very punchy, I thought was interesting, but black and white, making it dark, more analog, like on the right with the strong grain simulation, I think was interesting. Or on the right, that's a small pond on front of this actually grain silo. Or here, two details, the same one in the experimental editor of Camare, how the treatment can really change the looks. That's again at the same location. But on the right, that's when you arrive in Iceland by plane and you come from Europe. Usually you arrive and go just for the last part of the flight. You will see the south border, the south coast of Iceland, western Iceland, and that's the Vestmannaeyjar Islands that we can see down there. Beautiful islands, highly recommended if you visit to take the ferry and go check it out. It's a small town, and volcanic eruption was in the 1970s kind of covered part of the island, and there's a great museum where you can see archival photos and documents and see actually the lava fields. Really cool place. Here are the QR codes for the same pictures that you've seen just before. Let's continue. We're going back to Vaud, the Vaud region. The picture on the left, that's the original picture, and two versions through the experimental editor of Camare, which I thought were interesting because kind of very different. One more subtle, old school, the other one a little bit more punchy. Or here simply the black and white version. The black and white possibility of treatment, which I thought was interesting too. But you can see there's still a slight touch of color with the greens in the grass on the bottom part, which I thought was interesting. Or here we're going back to this the geo integrator with the watershed effect. I think it can be interesting to accentuate, to reinforce the darkness of certain zone and the brightness of others. And like here with this really wide angle view of a forest, I think it's kind of mysterious and works pretty well. Or here, same region, it's the same, maybe not the same region, not sure about that. But here you can see that this treatment with Nezeska, that gives this sort of lined aspect, analog television-like, NTSC-like aspect, can be interesting. And if you go through the experimental editor, here it's with the come up, which really intensifies the color artifacts of the image, which I thought, again, was graphically bringing us somewhere. Here are the QR codes for those who are interested. Let's still have a few photos for this time. Here's the original photo. So I was talking about arriving in Iceland from the south coast. Depending on when you arrive, you have this snow. It's kind of beautiful. That's a fresh snow layer that just fell down on this part of the island. That's basically southwest. You have the Bay of Reykjavík behind, and the mountains far away, which are way higher and covered with snow, a way thicker layer of snow. But at some moments, it really can be magical. So always, if you come from Europe, always take seats on the right if you want to see the island when you arrive. And the sky is clear. But anyways, here is the version coming out of Camare which I found was really interesting because it's really soft. That's gold ball. That reworks the color. It makes it kind of more abstract, but I did like the result coming out of it. Or here with Heben, going again through the experimental editor, how different results can be. Here another picture somewhere else, not far away, still the same flight, I believe. Yeah, with a teleobjective, I think you can get some really interesting stuff. And the sceneries are often very pretty in Iceland, so it's very photogenic. Here another treatment, and here another picture taken not far away. That was again another treatment which I found way more digital, more conceptual in some ways, very contrasty, but which I thought would maybe help you maybe inspire you. And here are the QR codes for most of them, not the last one, which comes, I believe, from Vika, so the film is not finished. Anyways, hopefully that was entertaining. If you have questions, comments, suggestions, as usual, don't hesitate. And yeah, catch you next time.